Welcome to the Craft of Coaching podcast, where we dive into what it truly takes to become a skilled, confident life coach. I'm your host, Kate, head of the CLCC, or Certified Life Coach Collective, an ICF-Accredited Level 1 coach training program. We combine courage, coaching, and community to offer you more than just a training program, but a life-changing experience where you use your own personal transformation as the learning ground for supporting your clients. On this podcast, we explore how you can use coaching skills to support your clients or expand your own growth, all grounded in evidence-based coaching practices. Learn more about our program and get free resources for becoming a life coach at teamclcc.com. And now, here's today's episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome again to the Craft of Coaching podcast. We are continuing to interview more people for season 2 who are experienced coaches who are coming from all different, perspectives, you could say, in the coaching world. And today I'm speaking with Liz Applegate. I'm excited to talk to her for several reasons. One being that she graduated from our Certified Life Coach Credential program. She became part of our leadership team. And another reason that I'm really excited to talk with Liz is that she's a fellow podcaster. So she has done a couple of different podcasts at this point, and I just think you'll find that she is an absolute delight and has a lot of wonderful wisdom to share about the coaching profession. Here we go. Liz Applegate.
All right. Okay. First place I like to start is with helping everyone who's listening to understand what are the things that your people are uniquely struggling with. And by uniquely, I don't mean nobody else in the world has struggled with them. And by your people, I don't mean specific clients, obviously. But as a general rule, a theme, what are the common themes that people are struggling with for your particular coaching practice?
Well, so most of my clients deal a lot with self-doubt. And most of my clients usually are in this place of transition where they have been, it can be in transition for different things. A lot of times as kids are growing up and growing out of the house. So they find themselves in a new role for their family because their role as mom has changed, but also a new role for themselves and what that all means. And a lot of self-doubt comes into play a lot. And so I use the term self-doubt in the coaching world. I think we call it inner critic, but I don't know that a lot of times my clients identify with that until we really break it down. So I would say self-doubt would be where I find a lot of my clients, where they are.
And you said that a lot of them are in a place of transition, particularly with moms whose kids have flown the coop.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I know
that getting ready to fly. They
or
kind of
getting ready to fly.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that is one.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I know that you had created the Midlife Schmidlife podcast, so it seems like there's the midlife transition just in general of having done things one way for a very long time, and then suddenly you're doing them a different way. And I was going to ask if you'd share a bit more about that, and you probably were about to before I started.
No, totally fine. So the funny thing with midlife is I was going through a transition before I identified as being in midlife. Midlife for me didn't become a reality until I hit 50. And then that, for some reason, that magic age kind of identifies as, quote, midlife. But what I realized as I've gone through this process, that really my life transition had really started back in my 40s. And a lot of that was, I don't know, you just kind of get to a point where you realize that you've been doing things a lot for your children and for other people. And, where does that leave me? And it was I had gone through a divorce and just kind of rebuilding my life and realizing I wasn't living from a place that I wanted to be, which was from the inside out. And so it's funny because midlife to midlife kind of came about because I was like, wait a minute, midlife, what the heck is this, right? Like I had now this label that I wasn't too happy about as far as how society saw me. And so what did that mean if that's how I was seeing myself? So it was kind of like I was shooting my middle finger up at, which I just physically did, by the way. I was flipping off getting older, and it really had me look at how society sees women as we age and also how we see ourselves. And there's just a lot of stuff wrapped up in that. There's the invisible woman syndrome where we aren't seen. I mean, we honestly become invisible to others, but I often wonder if it's because we are becoming invisible to ourselves. So there's just so much transition and so much, like I said, the self-doubt really kind of comes into play a lot because we are looking at things in a new perspective, but we are doubting whether I don't know, sometimes I feel like we may feel selfish because we are thinking things like that. And what's interesting is I've realized that a lot of these feelings come from these rules that we learned when we were growing up, and I call them the good girl rules. And those things that we were told as little girls, and yet here I am at 51, and I can still hear those rules come up. And it's just interesting to me how that still affects me and how, it's made me really do some exploration around how those have held me back in a lot of ways of becoming the person who really I was meant to be. But the cool thing is that now I can. So there you go. That was just like an animated, like, got my blood rushing on that one.
Well, and so let's move into then, how do you help clients shift around this? Because I know that you are a coach of incredible depth and incredible empathy, and you would never just turn to a client and go, well, hey, you're 51, you should know better. You know better than to, it's, flip the switch, just do it differently. Just,
Yeah.
like that
It's
kind of
only ever that
coaching is
easy.
just not. So then what becomes the entry point or the guiding philosophy or the exercise that you love to dive into to try to help
Mhm.
people who have been doing things one way for a very
Mhm.
long time? And oh, what a frustrating place that can be when you know better, but then it's hard to do better, because that's how good girl rules work. Like we all know
Yeah.
that, the things that we were told when we were children aren't necessarily the rules we have to live by as adults. And yet
Right.
doing it differently is more
Mhm.
challenging than just, oh, I'll do better now that I know better.
Exactly. And I want to point out too that these rules that we learned when we were younger, they weren't necessarily made to squelch us or keep us small. I like to be sure that I say this because I'm not into ripping your parents apart or being angry, or a lot of us carry on these rules that we learn, and then we've raised our own children, and we may have inadvertently passed along those. So I'd make sure that I let my clients know to offer themselves some grace as well as their parents some grace, that this is,
Mm-hmm.
this is all about awareness right now. And so, yeah, I mean, the first part really is just the awareness piece. And a lot of that can start from really kind of personifying that self-doubt voice, because that self-doubt voice comes from a place of or what we call an inner critic. It's mirroring what we've learned. It's mirroring these rules that it's voicing these rules to us that we have learned and have become such a part of ourselves. And so really it's about paying attention to what's being said and how it's being said. And so I like to go through an exercise where we actually personify this voice or these voices, because sometimes you can hear these different voices of self-doubt in your head. And so it could be an exercise we could be doing is, what is this? We start off with the easy questions of, so what is your self-doubt telling you? And, my client will share, a sentence, and then I'll move into, well, how is this being said? And so it can get kind of silly too. It offers some levity to it. Is your self-doubt, does she sound like a little mouse and uses a high squeaky voice? Or, so we kind of can do some little animations to it, which makes it kind of fun. I don't want to say funny, but it offers some levity into some kind of heavy places in our lives. And we've gone as far as having my clients draw out, what does this, whoever is saying this to you or whatever, what do they look like? How do they sound? I've had my clients draw them out and send me a picture. And what that does, I feel, is that it takes all this mumbo jumbo in your head and kind of takes it out. And so you can look at it and really kind of have a conversation with it if you need to. I mean, you can put your little self-doubt monster. My little self-doubt monster is kind of this orange furry guy. And so I have a picture that I drew, and then sometimes when I can really hear him really loudly, I just kind of place him over on the desk and say, okay, you get to sit here, and then I'm going to do my work. And then it sounds very silly sometimes, or, to people, but I feel like it's very helpful when they can separate that voice from themselves.
Well, it's been a really common theme in just about everyone I've interviewed for this season of Craft of Coaching, that clients feel a little bit silly and a little bit self-conscious about these exercises, even though they're inordinately helpful. And I just feel like that speaks to the vulnerability that it takes to do something different. Because obviously, if the way that our clients had been doing their lives was completely working for them, they wouldn't search out coaching. And the necessity of getting out of that comfort zone. And I was also thinking, when you described the exercise too, that when you talked about like almost like personifying the voices differently and stuff, I once had a coach do that with me. It was reminding me of this. And the coach actually asked me to get up and like walk to different parts of the room to like to speak each voice. And I thought that was a really interesting addition to it as well. There's something about not trying to like work with those voices with our own tiny will, and instead just get really elastic and creative and spontaneous and expressive with them, that allows them to shift. Even though, hands down, if I called you tomorrow and said, I need some help with some of these voices, and you had me doing some of this stuff, of course I'd feel a little bit silly. And I do this for a living,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I wonder too if it's because, sometimes I feel like we see ourselves as being silly, like, I'm a grown woman. Why the heck am I still dealing with self-doubt, right? And so I wonder sometimes if that doesn't come across as that. And I am never one to want to do role play. Like, that just is not my thing. And so having experience being uncomfortable and going through coaching, coaching myself, I think there's some benefits to that being uncomfortable. I really do, because I think for one, it can amplify those voices that you're hearing, that self-doubt that you're having. And I just think it's just part of the process. We get into our easy little comfort zone, and you wake up and 20 years have gone by, So, right. So if you are seeing a coach, that means you're ready, you're wanting change. And as a coach, I remember what it was like for myself. And so I feel, just as coaches, that we need to be very empathetic to our clients. And I will often share my own, I'll often share, like, I remember doing this. I remember how uncomfortable it is. And it's okay. It's okay.
It gives a lot more empathy when somebody understands, because they've been through the process themselves. Yeah.
Most definitely.
That's a critical piece.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Liz, I was going to ask one follow-up question, and if it
Mhm.
works, it works great. But do you have like a favorite exercise that you love to do with clients in particular?
Mm, gosh, I think I already shared it. um, yeah, I mean, really, probably it would be around personifying the self-doubt. And however that looks for a client, not every client is going to be open to, drawing something out. But it may be working through the voices of how self-doubt sounds, or giving a visual. How does that make you feel? It's really, in my mind, taking that self-doubt out of a person's mind that's just swirling around and getting bigger and bigger, and really kind of getting it out and containing it. So however that looks for the client. And I wanted to add too, I'm never into making the self-doubt into something bad. If I hear that, this someone's self-doubt is like mean and scary, and they're wanting to, kick its butt or whatever, and we work around reframing what that looks like. So maybe this mean and scary self-doubt, instead of him or her being 6 feet tall, becomes 2 inches tall. I really adhere to, and this is something I know that you believe in as well, Kate, is not turning your inner critic or your self-doubt, not demonizing, but personifying. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, because it's just a wound, and wounds need healing and love and care, not like shut the f
Right.
up and get away, and I'm
Right.
gonna kick, I'm gonna kick your ass and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't actually help anything. So
No, I tried that for a lot of years and it didn't work. So it wasn't until I could really hug my little orange furry monster, and I mean monster in a loving way, that I could really accept that part of myself and where it was coming from.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh. It really is. I really do believe it's true. The paradox is that only when we're willing to be with the thing that feels so hard to be with do we actually get the change that we've been wanting.
Right.
And I like to say to people too, like, if hating, or I mean, I really think it's three different things that people tend to do. We tend to avoid, please, or
Mm-hmm.
attack. We either avoid the stuff that we're uncomfortable with completely, try to numb out from it, ignore it. We try to please it by doing it so well that those voices should
Mm-hmm.
never come up,
Right.
and or we attack it. And it's like, if those strategies worked, nobody would have issues with any of these things anymore. Like
Exactly.
yeah, because we've all been doing them
Right.
for a long time. So, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. I love it. What a gift I think it is to be able to have you as a coach to walk alongside during a major transition. So, thank you so
Hmm.
much for sharing today a little bit
Well,
about
thank you, Kate.
who you be and what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, would you help us out and take a moment to give us a rating in iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening? It really helps us get the word out to other listeners. And before you go today, would you like free resources to support your coaching journey? Whether you're considering becoming a coach or you want advanced coach skills training, access our coaching resource library at teamclcc.com. Again, that's teamclcc.com. Can't wait to connect with you, and again, thanks for listening.